That you somehow lost your way. You try to find your way back, but you just don't know where to begin.
I have looked everywhere, searching for a love as good as yours. It's been too long since I've been away from you. It's time that I come back to my roots. 'Cause without you I've been so lost. Don't know what to do. Can you help me find my way? Without you I haven't lived. There's so much that I want to say, but don't know the right way. It's been a while, so here goes nothing. I can't think of the words to say. If you can hear me up a minute, I got so many things to tell you. On that day, I searching for a love that's true. I come back to find it in you. Now if I years ago, weeks ago, well I'm not sure where to start. It's been a long time since I spilled my heart to you. Just wanna express how much you really mean to me. I never knew love like this before. Can't wait till you show me more. This time I'm here to stay. Without you I haven't lived. Haven't lived, no. It's so much that I want to say, but don't know the right way. It's been a while, so here goes nothing. I can't think of the words to say. If you can hear me up a minute, I got so many things to tell you.
God bless you. God bless you and you and you. This is your Empowerment Bishop. And I am the host for this program on tonight, the Kingdom Entrepreneurs Program Network. Happy to have you. Well, you know what we always say about, tagging this and about, sending this out, liking it, and comments and sharing and everything. You know the drill by now. You know the drill by now. I'd like for you to do that if you choose to do it. Good to see you, Elder Dotson and Deacon Randy. Good to see you, man. Today is a good day. Today is a good day. There's some things I want to share tonight that I hope will bless you. And I want to ask a question though. Why do we seek a role in somebody else's story? Let me ask you the question again. Why do we seek a role in somebody else's story rather than focusing on our story? I believe your story is powerful. And if you focus on your story, getting your story told, I believe you can impact so many other people. The theme for tonight is stop auditioning for approval. Why are we auditioning for approval? In order to be a part of somebody else's story. I believe when God sent us here. When he sent us here, he did more than just send you. He sent a story where you are the author. And your story is necessary for God's story to move forward. Not only that, he has given us everything we need to fulfill our story. See, a lot of times we are trying to fulfill somebody else's story, but we don't have the necessary equipment for their story. Good to see you, Eileen. So we have to focus on fulfilling our story and quit seeking the approval of somebody else's story, trying to fit the role that they want us to play. It might not be the role that God sent me here to play. Stop auditioning in somebody else's story. Tonight, we're going to look at that tonight. We're going to have to look at some things. Let me pull this up because I want you to look at this. I want you to really think about this. Stop auditioning for approval. Somebody else's story. Look, this is what they want you to do. Sometimes people ask me, why you say kingdom entrepreneurs? As if there's a difference in entrepreneurs. And I say it is. With kingdom entrepreneurs, and then there are secular entrepreneurs. Right, let me give it to you again. There are kingdom entrepreneurs, and then there are secular entrepreneurs. Of course, your next question would be, then what's the difference? And I'm glad you asked that question. There is a difference because with secular entrepreneurs, they know their job. They know their job. And their job is what they are paid to do. Let me say it again. Your job is what you are paid to do. So they get paid to do their job. Kingdom entrepreneurs, likewise, they are paid. Their job is what they are paid to do. But here's the difference. With the kingdom entrepreneur, we go from our job to our work. We go from our job to our work. Your work is what you are made to do. Say that again. Your work is what you are made to do. Your job is what you are paid to do, but your work is what you are made to do. You are made for a story. It is bigger than the job. Your work has to do with the advancement of the kingdom. Within kingdom entrepreneur, we have to understand our job and our work. Yes. Tamika, good to see you. You have to understand that. Secular, all they're concerned about my job and this is what I'm paid to do. But when you are a kingdom entrepreneur, we also have to consider our work, because this is what, and this is why we came here. We were made to do this. This is why it's important that when we go to the job, we understand that we must do our job. That's because that's what we're paid to do. But then we have to then also focus on our work, which we were made to do, created to do, brought here on earth to do. So we can't be over consumed with playing a certain role in somebody else's story so they can pat us on our back and say, good job for the role we played in their story. This is why many people don't feel fulfilled, because they're not playing the role that God sent them to play. They have been auditioning for a role in somebody else's play or somebody else's movie or somebody else's story that doesn't fit the role of their story. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to figure this out. Let's move on a little bit further here. Here's our assignment. We're coming from Daniel 2:48. Daniel 2:48. Listen to this. Then the king made Daniel a great man. Then the king made Daniel a great man and gave him many great gifts and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. This is what I want you to look at this. Check this out. Who made him a great man? Who gave him great gifts? Who made him the ruler? Who gave him the position of chief of governors over all the wise men? Who did that? The king. It was the king. The king made him all of these things. Now, I do not believe, excuse me, I do not believe, but the scripture don't record, Daniel asked for any of this. What's interesting is Daniel achieved all of this, not at church, not in a synagogue. He achieved all of this in the marketplace, in the workplace. Sometimes we fail to realize that many times our story might not be in the church. Your story might be developed, oh my goodness, in the workplace, in the marketplace. We're trying to get it developed in the church when it might be developed in the workplace. Daniel's story is about to be developed in the workplace. Let's look at this a little bit further. Put some context here. Daniel's temperament is calm, faithful, courageous, and deeply devoted to God. He was known for his unwavering commitment to his religious beliefs, even when facing persecution. He has a strong sense of integrity and a willingness to stand by his principles. Now, listen to me carefully. Daniel's temperament is crucial for his story. Daniel needed to know what part of his temperament would be necessary for his story to move him forward. He had to be calm, faithful, courageous, unwavering in his commitment, and even facing persecution, he had integrity and he stood by his principles. This is evident because you remember when he came to Babylon and was put in the kingdom's palace, and they wanted him to compromise his conviction, he stood firm on his conviction. Where did he stand firm? In the marketplace. It was in the marketplace. And he gained influence in the marketplace. Daniel's job was a consultant. He was a consultant to the king, because when the king needed somebody to give him some advice about his dreams, Daniel became the go-to guy. That was his job. His work was to facilitate favor for the Israelites in captivity. See, not only did Daniel understand his job, but he never forgot his work. The work is what he was equipped for. His work was what was the reason God sent him here. So God gave him a temperament that would match his work. His temperament would match his work, so he could fulfill the story that God had created for him. My question to you today: what is your work? I know what your job is, because you go there every day, and you probably can tell us and lay it out in all detail. You know your job. You know what you were hired to do. You know what you're getting paid to do. You know that. But my question is, do you know your work? Because that's where the fulfillment is. I used to wonder, sometimes people talk about, being successful, and they got this formula for being successful. There is no formula for being successful. There is none. Because a lot of times when they're telling the stories, they're leaving very key items out of the story. Because if the truth be told, the reason they are where they are is not because they were smart. They're not smarter than you. They are where they are because there was a king. There was an individual that had doors open for them. Daniel was a very bright young man, very smart young man, but that wasn't what got him there. The influence, the favor of the king is what got him into these high places. So when people are telling you the stories, they leave out of their story the relationship that was involved that got them where they are. It was a relationship. Let's move on a little bit further here. Check this out. We're going to talk about temperament intelligence. Temperament intelligence. Now, this is important because just like Daniel's temperament was significant for his work, and you have to make sure that we don't get confused, because sometimes the job that we have might not fit the temperament. And that's what's causing frustration. But if you understand that the job is nothing more than a vehicle to bankroll your work, then it all comes together. Temperament intelligence. Let's look at this real quick. Are you a cleric? A cleric is an individual that is very ambitious and decisive. They know what they want. They have great vision. They see great things. That's what they are. That's who they are. That's for their work. Now, it can be used for the job, but the real purpose is for their work. Your assignment, your story. And if you're not careful, you will reduce your ambition to try to fit the role in somebody else's story. But you know all along, it's not fulfilling you. because it's not your story. It's not your story. It's their story. And you're using that temperament skill of being a cleric for somebody else's story, and then you wonder why they're not. You're using it in the wrong place, bro. Melancholy, analytical, and dedicated. That's for your story. When you are analytical and dedicated in somebody else's story, and you don't get the appreciation from being so dedicated, this is what causes us to become frustrated, because we're using that, which is what God put in our temperament, but you're using it for a role in somebody else's story. And all they want is for them to look good. They can care less about appreciating you. This is some good stuff right here, man. This is some good stuff, even if I say so myself. Working in the wrong story. Sanguine, charismatic, and compassionate. Charismatic and compassionate. That's part of your temperament, and it's for your story. But here you are using all of that for a role in somebody else's story that doesn't appreciate it. God sent us here for our story. But if not careful, we're sending it out to somebody else's story, and it's completely frustrating us. Phlegmatic, peacemakers, and very calm. That's for your story. You'd be surprised if you are a phlegmatic, how if you're working in your story, even in the midst of the storm, there's peace. Because you're in your story. You remember how Jesus, in the midst of the storm, went down in the boat, laid down with sleep? Because Jesus was working his story, and he had no need to be frustrated because his temperament was fit for his work. It might not be fit for your job, but it will be fit for your work. Supine, gentle spirit, and a desire to serve. That's for your story. As you're writing your story, that's what your temperament is for. Now we have cleric, we have melancholies, sanguines, phlegmatic, supines. You know, I do this whole teaching on a temperament-centered leadership. And the reason this is so important to me, I see people, especially in churches, putting temperaments in the wrong role because they don't understand the role and the work of a temperament. They don't understand. You can't just put people in where it has to fit their storyline in order for it to bless the church. Because you have to understand, with temperaments, there are two things that come: strengths and weaknesses. Strength and weaknesses. Good evening, Doc. Strengths and weaknesses. Strengths and weaknesses. It is extremely important that you understand. So you are forcing people into a role where they don't fit. And you're causing frustration, not just with that individual, frustration even in the church, frustration on the job, because people are not in the right place. Here you have a cleric that's strong-willed, but they're self-sufficient. They don't need anybody. That's a dangerous, that's a weakness for them. I have a person right here called Paul. Paul was considered a cleric, because one thing about Paul, you remember Paul said on one occasion that, I'm not asking for because I need it, because I got everything I need. Paul was one of those kind of guys. I'm self-sufficient. I don't need nothing from you. He had a very strong will. He was very determined, which is good, but his self-sufficient piece got him in trouble because he wouldn't listen. God told him, said, listen, son, listen. These Jews are not going to listen to you. So focus on what I want you to focus on. But his strong will, which is good, but he felt like that's okay. I don't need no help. I can get it done myself. And he spent the remainder of his ministry in prison. Melancholies, self-sacrificing. That's fine. I mean, they are truly dedicated, but they're also self-centered. Moses was a melancholic. You remember one time when God was going to destroy Israel, Moses stepped in and said, "No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, people going to say, he on one occasion he said, look, I ain't even going if you ain't going with me. No, man, no. But he was self-centered because God told him to speak to the rock and he hit it. He was into his own work because he got upset. He was mad. Caused him not to go into the promised land. So you got the sanguine, friendly, very friendly, but they got a weak will. Now you know what that fits. That's Peter all day long. That's Peter all day long, man. Peter was the kind of guy that could just attract people. Peter was the guy, but he had a weak will. So things got hot. Peter broke camp. Went back to fishing, back to the old way. And Jesus had to go to him and talk to this guy and say, hey, come on, man. Let me tell you how this is important is it. Out of all of the disciples, the 12 disciples, somehow no, Jesus knew that Peter had the right temperament to stand up on the day of Pentecost and start speaking. That was the sanguine in him. Jesus left no instructions on who was going to say anything. Peter just stood up. Jesus knew the temperament of his disciples. Phlegmatics. They're dependable, but stubborn. Daniel was a very dependable person. You remember how I said, even when they said, look, you're in the king's palace, we're going to change your menu up. Daniel was like, no, no, I got to eat the way the law tell me. I can't be eating like this. And he wouldn't do it. He would not do it. He was very dependent, but he had a stubborn part of him as well. Now, to be quite honest, his stubborn part kind of helped out because Daniel was the one that kept praying and trying to facilitate peace for Israel. And he was definitely putting up a strong challenge against God. No, you can't do this. No, sir. No. You got to remember your mercy. I know we done messed up. But you got to remember the mercy. You see how your weakness can turn out to be good if you're in your story. If I can't get anything over to you. See, but sometimes people, they get this temperament thing and they think they know it, and I got it. They don't know where to use it. They don't know how to implement it because they all over the place. Look at your story. Trust me, if you ever learn your temperament and then look at your story, your work, your reason for being here, you'll really then figure out, oh, I need it for this. But if you're not careful, you've been using it over in the wrong area with the job in somebody else's story, and it's not working. Supine, enforce policies. Very great. Good job. But difficult. They have difficulty with the word no, with saying no. We talk about Timothy being a supine because Timothy had a real problem with being able to stay the course. That's why Paul would constantly tell him, God haven't given you the spirit of fear, man. You have to say no to some things, Timothy. You just can't just keep going along with everything. But the fear of the consequences of saying no to certain things, he was just timid. Kind of matched Timothy. He was timid. Now, a lot of times you have people in church putting people on the door to usher. that are clerics. A cleric does not need to be at the door ushering or telling or greeting people. They don't have the right temperament. That's not the role for them. Why is that? Because if something goes wrong, the cleric has a very hot head. They are going to go off on somebody. Who you want at the door. When somebody comes to your church, you want to sing one right there. Somebody that's friendly, that's full of joy and lovable. That's who you want at the door. What the scripture says one day, know them that labor among you. A supine, you don't want them at the door because they're very timid, easily offended, hurt. They're going to start crying. That's not what you want. You have to know those that labor among you. You know, you got to understand the temperament makeup of an individual. Sometimes people get confused with the word temperament. Like, what is it? Let me break it down to you. When God created man and woman, he said, we're going to make them in our image. A lot of time in the secular world, we use the word temperament. It's the same as your spirit. Your spirit man. Your spirit man is equipped with certain strengths and weaknesses. That's your spirit man. And the reason for that weakness is God is very wise. He has to make us in a way where we depend on him. Okay. I have two questions I want to leave with you tonight. What is your primary strength? What is your primary strength? Number one. Number two, what is your primary weakness? I want to challenge you this week to spend time to figure out your primary strength and your primary weakness. Because when you become aware of what they are, look at your story and see how they fit in your storyline. And see if you put them in there in the right place, see don't your storyline take a whole different direction. My people perish for the lack of knowledge. Your primary strength will build your story, and your primary weakness will cause you to stay closer to God because you know you need his help for that weakness not to take over the strength. Wow. Woo. Recap. We talked about your temperament intelligence, and we talked about temperament strengths and weaknesses. If you can identify your primary strength and your primary weakness, moving forward, watch how God began to help you develop your story and you find fulfillment in your work, not just your job. The conclusion, the wealth of the sinner belongs in your hands. No margin, no mission.